What's going on, everybody? It's KBR Sports, the best sports podcast of your 24-hour day. I'm your host, Brendan Abbott, coming to you with another episode of the KBR Sports Podcast, where you already know what it is. We got a lot of sports stuff to talk about. Honestly, even though there's a lot of sports news going on, I feel like there's mainly one news story that everybody feels like I definitely need to touch on. And I think I will make that the main focus of this podcast episode today, in which I'm talking about the Kawhi Leonard finally being traded news. So what essentially went down is that Kawhi Leonard got traded to the Toronto Raptors in a deal which sent Kawhi and Danny Green to the Toronto Raptors for Demar Derozan, Jacob Poeltl, or Patel, however you pronounce his name, and a protected 2019 first round pick. The first round pick is protected through selections 1 through 20, and after the first year it becomes 2 second round picks. The Spurs also sent $5 million in order to cover the trade kicker that comes in with the trade of DeMar DeRozan's contract. So interesting news coming out here, and it's been rumored for the past week or 2 weeks or so that the Raptors were very strong contestants to get Kawhi Leonard. You even saw the Vegas odds going up, and it's weird how everything in Vegas seems to always indicate what's really going to happen. Like, I feel like if you want to know something in sports is going to go down, or you have a feeling, go look at the Vegas odds at times. Obviously, there's some things where people are like betting on the Lakers to win the championship. Obviously, no, that's not one of. It's just that they're gonna have such a high gain in terms of if they win. People went and put their money on them because they would win so much money if the Lakers did end up winning the championship. So the odds were being swayed in that direction because of how many bets were being placed on the Lakers. But the amount of odds that were going up in terms of Kawhi going to the Toronto Raptors, I'm telling you, it's one of those things that you have to sit there and take a look and think, how much was this talked about coming into this week? How much were we talking about Kawhi to LA, Kawhi to Boston, Kawhi to Philly? Kawhi was being connected to every other part of the country except for the one place that's not in the country, which is funny enough. So when you now look at it, when you see the trade for what it is, if we had to pick a winner and a loser, I think honestly, if we had to pick a winner and a loser, I'm saying the winner is Toronto and the loser is San Antonio. And I know people are like, well, how is that possible? Because the Spurs have DeMar DeRozan for X amount of years locked in and everything like that. To be precise, he's going to be there until 2021 when he's an unrestricted free agent and everything. But the reason why I feel like the Raptors are the winners, even though a lot of people, I hear the criticism, this is what the scenarios are that people are giving out. That what if Kawhi Leonard leaves in free agency next year and he goes to the Lakers or the Clippers or whatever team, and you gave away DeMar DeRozan for nothing. Okay, and were they winning a championship with DeMar DeRozan? No. Were you just good enough to make the playoffs every year? Yes. Were you entertaining until you ran into LeBron? Yes. And now, I know LeBron is not in the Eastern Conference anymore. But I think a lot of people conceded the fact that next year, if Kyrie Irving and Gordon Hayward were healthy, they would have ended up beating the Cavaliers anyway. So, do you have the Toronto Raptors with DeMar DeRozan and no Kawhi Leonard and whoever else beating a Celtics team with a healthy Kyrie and Gordon Hayward, or a Sixers team with a still developing Ben Simmons and a Joel Embiid as well? I don't know about that. So it's one of those things, as a franchise, you have to sit back and really analyze what your team is. You hit your ceiling, you hit the cap of what your ability is as a franchise, and so when you reach that point, you realize, okay, our guy that's supposed to be our franchise player isn't a good enough player to be our franchise player in order to get us to where we want to go. So they made the move to move DeMar DeRozan and actually make a move into a direction of, well, look, we're going to buy in for this year because we got guys like Kyle Lowry under contract for another year. We got Serge Ibaka under contract for another year. And it just makes sense to me. I mean, I'm really impressed with Masai Ujiri, the Raptors general manager, just because of the fact that he made a move that, despite how it looks in terms of personal relationships, which I'm going to touch on in a second, it's a move that was a very smart managerial and basketball foretelling move, because now you obviously got your pick 1 to 20 top protected, just in the case that you're not good, and in the case you might end up trading Kawhi Leonard before even finishing the whole season out with him, because you don't know what the status of his health could be and everything like that. So you got that pick, and you protected that pick in the chance to kind of hedge your bets a little bit and have something in the wings to protect you and get some kind of value for that pick in the case that you guys are a 1-20 team in the lottery or so. And then you also, now if let's say a scenario where Kawhi Leonard does play out the whole season, all right, what could possibly go wrong? All right, if he plays out the whole season and the Raptors end up making it to the finals, you did better than you ever would have done with Demar. All right, and if you get bounced in the second round or whatever round of the playoffs, or if you don't even make the playoffs, okay, and that's fine too. You did take a step back, but essentially this is a way you go for it, because I think most people will agree Kawhi Leonard is a better player than DeMar DeRozan. This is where you go for it when you have a 2-time Defensive Player of the Year, a Finals MVP on your roster. You go for trying to win the championship. And if you don't, and Kawhi decides to leave the next year, guess what? Now you're rebuilding, because a lot of those contracts you're going to have are going to end up having 1 year on them, or they're going to be expiring contracts. So now you're in full rebuild mode, instead of being in that middle of the tier wash where a lot of teams are and they don't know how to get out of it, because Toronto's not a place where they attract free agents. A lot of those kind of teams you have to build through the draft. So instead of staying in the middle lane of things like a Charlotte or a Milwaukee or those kind of teams, Portland, you gotta have to find ways to get better. Either you have to bottom out, or your stars just have to improve that much more. Your young talent has to jump to the next level that much more, so you're able to win with the roster as it's constituted. Now, in terms of what I was saying in regards to Kawhi possibly being traded, I think a lot of people see this trade go down, and granted, you have to wait a period of time of 60 days before you can trade a player that you just traded for. But I feel as though now Kawhi Leonard just got more likely to get traded again, possibly. And the reason why I feel like that is because the Raptors are now in a situation where they traded for him. The Spurs did not want to trade Kawhi to the Western Conference. They made that clear. They didn't want to trade him to the Lakers. They didn't want to make an enemy or strengthen a competitor in their same conference. And then they wanted the boatload, or at least another star in exchange for Kawhi. And in this deal, they get that. They get the star in exchange. They trade out into the East, and essentially it's a star that's under contract for years as well. So they are in a situation where the Spurs kind of got what they want. Even though DeMar DeRozan is not the player that's going to lead the Spurs to championships, it does keep them relevant and lets them still try to win while they have Greg Popovich coaching. And who knows, Greg Popovich might unlock a new level of DeMar DeRozan's game. That's something we have yet to see. But it will be interesting to see how that plays out. Now, for San Antonio, I feel as though, yeah, you got what you could. I honestly feel like you got what you could. I don't know what other teams are willing to offer them to give them up for Kawhi. I feel as though they were really holding back in terms of what they wanted to give, because they didn't know about what the situation was in terms of him signing that very next year. So a lot of teams weren't trying to put too much into the deal. And then a team like the Lakers is sitting there thinking, well, we can get him next year. Why are we going to give away all our talent if we can just get him next year? It makes no sense. So that scenario is why the San Antonio Spurs essentially took this deal. But the Kawhi could still get traded to the Lakers, because, like I said, the Raptors are trying to rebuild. They don't mind if they go and get a young guy like a Brandon Ingram or Kyle Kuzma, because they don't have that worry of, okay, we're creating an enemy in the East. They don't care. They're just trying to rebuild at that point, and then your competition is out in the West. So that's not an immediate concern of yours if you were to trade him to the Lakers or whatever team aside from like the 76ers or whoever, unless they're willing to give you worthy compensation for him. So those are the kind of things that I really have to piece together when it comes to analyzing this trade. But then also, just, I kind of alluded to it earlier, just the emotional aspect of this trade. I mean, the way it kind of went down is kind of messed up. I know basketball is a business. I know how the whole NBA mantra works. When the general managers in the league office do something, it's all about business. When the players move around, the players have no backbone. The players are only all about themselves. They don't care about winning championships. They don't care about competition. The whole nine. So DeMar DeRozan, essentially, the word was, according to Chris Haynes of ESPN, that during Summer League, because these reports have been going around for about a week and a half or so, that the Raptors were in the sweepstakes to get Kawhi Leonard. And so I guess DeMar DeRozan, this is from his vantage point, this is from the people in his camp, mind you, so we don't have Toronto's side on things here. But apparently, according to them, DeMar approached them asking, is it possible he could get traded? And he was informed and reassured that no, he was not going to be traded. This is what DeMar DeRozan wrote on his Instagram page this morning. This morning, y'all. No time wasted. Be told one thing and then out come another. Can't trust them. Ain't no loyalty in this game. Sell you out quick for a little or nothing. So you understand. Don't disturb. Now, look. One thing I would definitely take away from that DeMar DeRozan quote is Kawhi Leonard is not a little bit of nothing. He's a whole lot of something. A whole lot of something that's more than what DeMar DeRozan has ever been. So, I mean, I'm not even trying to be disrespectful, but Kawhi Leonard at his best, don't get it messed up now. Kawhi Leonard at his best is a top 10, as a top 5 player, arguably top 3. The only other guys I might even put in that conversation above Kawhi are Anthony Davis, Steph Curry, and then maybe an iteration of Giannis, but I don't think Giannis is there yet. So probably Anthony Davis and Steph Curry. So DeMar DeRozan is a great guy, great advocate for mental health and depression and anxiety and the whole nine. But that's just, no, it's absurd to say he's a little bit of nothing. Now, they still have to wait to see what Kawhi Leonard, the status of his health is in terms of the physical. And you hear a lot of conflicting reports of, Kawhi doesn't want to play in Toronto. Now he's warming up to the idea of playing in Toronto. Look, until I ever hear Kawhi Leonard say something, I don't take anything at face value. I'm not taking it at face value that he wants to play for the Lakers at this point. Unless Adrian Wojnarowski reports it, which is most likely 99% of the time true, I'm not taking anything at face value just because of the fact Kawhi Leonard doesn't say anything. We don't hear anybody, we don't see anything, we don't see a direct quote from anybody that's connected to Kawhi. We don't see this quote is tied, I heard this directly from Kawhi's uncle, I heard this, or him speaking on camera. You don't see any of that. All of it is hearsay. Kawhi doesn't want to play in Toronto at one point. Kawhi won't play in Toronto. So that then it kind of dissuades the Spurs from trading him to Toronto, or even Toronto Raptors to dissuade them from trading for him. They do it anyways. And then it's like, all this talk about how he doesn't want to play. Now he's warming up to the idea of it. So it's just so much hearsay, man. And half the time I don't like to buy into all that, because people need to realize other teams do leak news to reporters and stuff and get it reported in order to sometimes apply pressure on teams and make them do certain moves and stuff to dissuade them from doing certain moves. Like the Lakers could have leaked that Kawhi Leonard had no interest in playing in Toronto. Why would they do that? So he wouldn't get traded to Toronto, so they wouldn't trade for him. The same thing with the other Eastern Conference teams. Then the news starts leaking out that, Kawhi's interested in playing in the Clippers. He doesn't want to play with LeBron. So then it makes it so that it seems like the Lakers have to make a move faster because there's another team that could possibly vie for Kawhi if he hits the free agency market instead of them just getting him right now. See, there's so many angles to these things, and it's such a mind game. And I wish people just knew how much of this stuff is all intertwined with one another. But let me take a quick break to talk about my friends at Fanatics, y'all. Good guys. Anytime I need to get taken care of and I want to get new gear, like everybody that is a fan of the Raptors is going to have to get new gear for Kawhi Leonard jerseys, and same thing with Spurs fans having to get stuff for DeMar DeRozan. Anytime I need some new gear and I need something to take care of myself in terms of sports apparel and memorabilia, I go to Fanatics. Fanatics has everything from the NFL, MLB, NBA, and so on. Fanatics is always able to give you the next level of sports equipment and gear. Even when LeBron first went to LA, Fanatics was the number one sports apparel in which they sold out essentially of all the LeBron pre-orders for his new jerseys. So that just shows you how fast Fanatics is to beat everybody else to the punch. So guys, if you're looking to get some new sports apparel and memorabilia, make sure you go to Fanatics. Give them a call, 954-507-6928. Go ahead and give that number a call, because by giving that number a call, you're actually able to get discounts on your orders with Fanatics. So guys, don't miss out on your opportunity now. Go with Fanatics and make sure you get yourself some great apparel and memorabilia for the upcoming NBA season, for a lot of new changes and a lot of new faces. But guys, like I was saying before, One thing I will say in regards to the Raptors with this deal, I think a lot of people are selling short of what it's like if you're the guy in the team. Because Toronto is not a bad city. Don't get me wrong. Toronto's not a bad city. One of my best friends is from Toronto, and he describes it to me all the time. He talks about it. He's actually going there soon. And a lot of people always say Toronto is a great sports city and everything like that. The only problem with Toronto, the main issue with it, is that it's another country. That's literally the issue of it. You have to go through customs and everything like that whenever you're taking a flight to and from Toronto, if you're traveling to go in the States to play other teams away and whatnot. But Toronto's a great city, and it's a great place to live. It's definitely not the same as San Antonio. Granted, I know San Antonio had no state income tax, so definitely that had its perks too. And you were playing in a great organization in San Antonio. But I felt as though a lot of people, I've seen Kawhi starting to get this rap with people saying, oh, well, Kawhi is acting like a petulant child, all that. Look, until you know what it's like to get misdiagnosed, and I'm not saying that's exactly what necessarily happened in this case with the Spurs, even though they were trying to rush him back from injury from ahead of time from when he felt like he was ready. But when you get misdiagnosed with an injury and you have money on the line and somebody's messing with your money, that changes the whole dynamic of things. Nobody should tell another man how he should feel about protecting his money, or woman at that fact, but nobody should tell another person how that person should go about handling their money or trying to do what it takes to protect their money. If Kawhi Leonard felt like he wasn't 100%, why would he play? What, go out there and injure himself even more when people already had ordained the Golden State Warriors to win the championship? If he didn't feel like he was 100, why would he go out there when you know you're not going to win it? You're not going to beat the Warriors with anything less than a 100% Kawhi Leonard. I mean, look at what happened to Isaiah Thomas. I know he's like the poster child of this at this point now, but when he was with the Celtics and they misdiagnosed his hip injury and he tried to play through it in the playoffs, he ended up injuring it worse, and then he never even got the big payday that he alluded to himself when he said they're going to have to back the Brinks truck up. Somebody's going to have to back the Brinks truck up to pay me. He never got that payday because of the fact that he came back, played with an injury. He's never fully recovered from the injury. He had to have hip surgery this past offseason. So it's one of those things where I understand where Kawhi's coming from. I understand where the organization's coming from. You hope if your team doctors say he's good enough to play, you're believing in your team doctors, of course. And you're like, hey, what's going on? Like, why are you not wanting to play, sort of thing. So I understand where both sides are coming from, but I just don't like the negative rap that's getting attached to Kawhi Leonard's person, that's getting assassinated in the media and stuff like that. I'm just not for it. Not for it at all, because everybody that essentially carries that media slogan around, half these people are not general managers, they're not managers, and they're not vice presidents, owners, and anything like that are the people that are hiring, because half these people complain about when their bosses try and make them come into work when they're sick or when they have an emergency or when they have something wrong with them. So you complain about when your boss doesn't give you off when you're sick and that you want a sick day so you can have it to yourself to feel better. But Kawhi Leonard can't take time in a physically inducing sport when his quad injury hurts, and then having Tony Parker come out and say, oh, my injury was much worse. What is that going to solve? In what world is that any form of advice that you think is going to entice somebody to want to come back and play with you? It was honestly the most idiotic approach I saw in terms of how the Spurs were handling the whole Kawhi Leonard situation. I never thought that approach was the best approach at all. Now, when it comes to how I think the fits are going to happen in terms of the other sides of things, I think that the Toronto Raptors are definitely a contender to come out the Eastern Conference with Kawhi Leonard, but a fully healthy Kawhi Leonard. That's something that we're still waiting to see. A fully healthy Kawhi Leonard. We don't know what the status of his health is and everything like that, but I think that team has definitely a lot of talent with Kawhi on there. And I think Kawhi, with him on your team, he's the best player in the Eastern Conference. It's between him, Giannis, and no, it's probably between him and Giannis. I think Kawhi's better than Kyrie Irving. And now the Celtics, they just might have a better team, but Kawhi Leonard is a better player than Kyrie Irving when fully healthy. And when you have that kind of player on your team, and then you have other pieces around him that can create and also make his job a lot easier, I think that will be very interesting. He's going to be in the Eastern Conference now, so he could essentially become the new king of the East if he decided to stay there, which is what I think Toronto's they're not banking on it because, like I said, they have that rebuilding plan in the back of their hip pocket. But at the same time, if they keep Kawhi if he's like, I really like it in Toronto. I love the city and everything like that, because like I said, Toronto and San Antonio are very different cities now. There's a lot. Like I look at videos online, and let me tell you, when I see the Caravana Festival going on and everything like that, I'm just like, man, I gotta go have me some fun. I gotta be with the people dancing in the streets and everything like that. My friend Prince always telling me, nah, bro, you don't understand how tiring it is. I don't care how tiring it is. I want to go out there and dance with the people too. I'm a dancer, man. I'm a dancer. I'm a lover. I wanna experience the world with the people. But going back to what I was saying, I mean, I think that Demar is, I think Kawhi is going to make a big impact on that team in terms of what they can do coming out of that conference. I think it'll be very interesting. In terms of the Spurs, I think the Spurs are going to be kind of that middle of the treadmill team. They're not going to be that, they're going to be better with DeMar DeRozan, but they're going to still be a middle of the pack team in the Western Conference. But with Greg Popovich's coaching, who knows? DeMar DeRozan might play in a entirely different play style and be way better than what we've ever seen in Toronto. I look forward to it, man. NBA offseason just keeps giving and giving. Every time the news cycle gets, I think today is the first day where we had no live sports. So literally nothing, the major sports, nothing to watch. And this Kawhi news, of course, hits when that all that needs to be given. So Kawhi, Spurs, Raptors, I thank you. Thank you for giving me something to talk about on tonight's episode of the podcast, because I needed something. I was like, you know what, guys, I want to definitely give content for you all, but the news cycle can sometimes be dry during this time of the period. That's why I think everybody takes their days off during this time of period. But guess what? I'm here recording podcasts for you all because I care about y'all. I care about the people, y'all. But that's going to wrap it up for the podcast, y'all. Remember, if you ever wanted a central location where you can find all Brendan Abbott content, you can find it on my new website, brendanabbott.com, which has episodes of the podcast, my blog, and other content you can only find on brendanabbott.com. So make sure you go check it out. And also, follow and subscribe to the KBR Sports Podcast on Spreaker, SoundCloud, iTunes, and YouTube. Definitely YouTube, because there's a lot of video content on there that you won't see on the other platforms. So make sure you check that out. So that way you receive notifications whenever the KBR Sports Podcast is streaming live and when a new episode is posted. And also follow the KBR Sports Twitter page where my links and topics and podcast updates are tweeted. And finally, and most importantly, make sure you comment, like, and share your favorite KBR Sports episodes to give your opinions on any topic and then show your support for the show, which I always love y'all for. But all right, yeah, guys, I think this is going to be really interesting to see how the Kawhi saga plays out, because it's still not over. We still got until next summer to see what happens. Shoot, we even got to the trade deadline to see if he'll get traded again, and that'll be definitely interesting. We'll see how the backlash of DeMar getting sent to the Western Conference, how that affect things. You saw a lot of stars were upset about how the whole deal went down, so this is a very interesting part of the NBA offseason. But hey, man, I mean, I guess it's all part of the business. This was the same thing what everybody always says. It's a part of the business. Nothing's going to change. It never really comes as a surprise. So it's what's to be expected. But all right, guys, for now, I'm out.